grid, stand up. SBC, Black Elvis, Roddy, OG, it's wavy. Look, started from the bottom, so we off the grid. Tryna make it to the top, we soon live off the grid. Had dreams of making teams, I was just a kid. But we off the grid, yeah, we off the grid. On the come up, so we off the grid. Had dreams of the league, we was all just kids. And the bullets from the underground, they often miss. The podcast bringing light, so they don't call it quits. Now pass the rock, I'm open on the 10. They call me wavy in the red zone for the win. And do your dance on them, raise the roof, we got the fans rolling. Catch a pick and then do it again.
What's up, New York City? Get your popcorn. This is the third episode of Off the Grid. It is us. I'm your boy, the commish, along with D-Dub and Roddy. Last week, we talked about our top 5 high school football teams in New York City. We also touched on the effect of COVID and what it's doing to our neighborhood as far as youth sports. D, you had an interesting weekend this week.
Indeed, I did. First of all, shout out to Big Apple with their bowl series this weekend and Under the Lights Youth Football. Saturday, Big Apple, I believe, had their championship series, and Sunday, out in Jersey, we got to witness the inaugural first Under the Lights championship series, and it was really great just to see athletes out, youth football players playing football.
That wasn't 7-on-7.
Not 7-on-7. This was.
See, I'm for that.
Full-fledged, top to bottom, helmets and shoulder pads, good old-fashioned.
Okay.
So, it was really great. Just, the footage and just seeing kids out congregated and still safe. Taking the proper precautions,
they had all the precautions,
having masks on, making sure that, people stayed a respectable distance away from each other. Just see the product of football played in New York, from our local teams. It didn't happen here in the city, but there was representation from Long Island, from Pennsylvania, from Jersey, from Brooklyn and Queens. So
where was the games? Where was the games played at?
The games were played in New Jersey. What appeared to be just a field that was in a community. It wasn't a high school football field. It wasn't attached to a rec center. It just was, one of the blessings you have in the suburban world where you have plenty of open space.
How did your team do?
Well, I can't even take claim to any of the teams because it wasn't any team that I coached. I happened to get wind of them having the games. Brooklyn United had quite a few teams in the championship.
It was good comp though, or it was just?
It was good comp. At this point, any comp is good as far as I'm concerned. Was it what we would have seen if kids had 10 months of preparation, 10 months of practice, 10 months of instruction? Absolutely not. But I think we're kidding ourselves to expect that kind of product under the circumstances.
Okay. So now we on a second possible shutdown. Public schools have already closed, most of them. Which means there may not be a season or a year at all for high school sports in New York City. Now, my partner had an interesting question, or would like to know what kids, what should they be doing this time around? For those, as we recap last conversation, it was for those kids who possibly missed it. They might get a second chance with this second lockdown, but they have to do a lot of different things. So, Roddy, give me some things they should be doing, being that you're closer to the age group today.
Yeah, I think public schools just closed 2 days ago. But yeah, if they're gonna end up quarantining and having people staying at home again, and people do spike and end up getting corona, then I think people should realize now rather than realizing it as we're already into the quarantine, right? So now that you already see that the schools is closing and that seasons might not happen, now it's kind of like, as the athlete, what are my next steps, right? I saw Hayes, they posted their schedule. They got games in March, games in April. So, stuff like that's good, that you're still working towards games and maybe a playoff series or a championship. But if COVID strikes again and people just shut everything down, then you can't have that season. So now I'm looking past my senior season. Now I'm looking at now I have to I'm going to college the following year now. So I just think it's a little slippery slope with it.
So now, if I'm a parent, should I take it upon myself to get any type of footage of my kid, whether that's him working out all year? Now, because you have a kid that might be a senior. He's losing his whole year now. How does he get seen? How does anybody, take him at what he did as a junior as opposed to his new body, his new mind, his new strengths and weaknesses? Should a parent start doing these things to prepare to get them to the next school?
I think as the parent, yeah, I don't think that it would be detrimental to a kid if you took videos, or when they go out and they do drills or whatever the case may be, you film that. But I think that even as an athlete, I realize that stuff like film matters. So like a coach seeing you out there playing, whatever the case may be, that stuff matters. So not to say that you shouldn't take videos of doing drills or whatnot. Do that. Have guys come out.
Especially in this situation. That's
Yeah.
what I mean. I know it's not normal.
Nah, yeah, definitely.
But during this situation, I mean, if my kid is in this lane.
Or even the kid himself.
Yes, or the kid himself.
Have kids come out to the park, do one-on-ones, even the 7-on-7s. Try to make it seem like, we're competing, we're working, this is how we're getting better. And if you do get an opportunity where it's like, the coach is saying, what have you done? It's like, coach, I've done X, Y, and Z. Even when it comes to like weight room numbers, get in the weight room.
Okay, so I mean, I'm a kid. Like I said, I'm junior now. I didn't take it serious the first shutdown. Give me a couple of items that I should be doing as a student athlete. What should I be doing? Being that I dropped the ball the first time.
I think before we ever get anywhere, the biggest cliche in sports is the term student athlete. The relevance of the word student coming first. And I think kids get tired of hearing us repetitiously repeat that. The reality is that there's no reason why people should not be studs in the books right now.
And that's a fact too, because a lot of people say, and I think for college it's a little different. I'm gonna be honest, college-wise, Zoom, having to hand everything over the computer is not effective. Even
in the high school level.
I'm gonna say high school and college. I'm not gonna take away from high school either.
College has been doing that even when we was in school.
Yeah, but what I will say is the fact that you are sitting at home and 9 times out of 10 you're getting a worksheet that's online. You're online, right? You're getting work that you have all the access in front of you. You should be able to get 80s, 90s. And I think a lot of people fell into a trap where it was like, COVID hit, school's hard. Yeah, but it also got easier at the same time. So it's kind of like you got to take advantage.
So, valid point, and I'm glad you brought that up, because the number one thing that impacts, I think, a student athlete is their ability to manage their time. And we don't talk about that, right?
Yes.
There's a lot expected of you as a student athlete. You got to train. You got to watch film. You got to do your schoolwork. In the wrong order. I should have said schoolwork first. But, ultimately, right?
Whatever order, just get it done.
Just get it done.
Anything you do is going to be predicated on your ability to properly manage your time and maximize the potential out of it. If you sat down and really, how many students sit down and really map the 24-hour period of their day out and literally account for everything that they do?
I don't even know anybody that do that regularly.
Nah, I had to.
So I can absolutely say that I was truly impressed and shocked at the level of detail that this guy went through in high school to try to manage his time. Like, it cost me some walls in my house because he took marker and literally marked on his wall, this is the time I gotta eat. This is the time I gotta study. And it was impressive.
And even with that, that's just time management. Right, I did it in different ways. Some people might do it in different ways that it's not the same that I do it. But the fact of just making sure that you're ready, whether it's with school and sports, just making sure that you keep everything in check and get it done.
Okay, so can you like I said, I needed some examples of what should I be doing.
Number one, manage your time.
Managing time,
That's
number one.
I had that one there. I got 5. I think that, like I said, lifting is definitely important. The first go round and the second go round, right? COVID hit before. We don't have no control over that, but this is now, right? That with COVID potentially being a hit, right? You want to be able to lift, right? If gyms close, understandable, but even with like running the stairs, right? Get active. Another thing is eating, right? A lot of athletes sleep on like how important eating is, and then being in the house so much, it kind of like, you know, sometimes you might overeat, sometimes you might just sit there and not eat at all just because you're in the house, right? Time management was on there.
Time management.
Being able to manage your time properly. Field work or play, like going out to the field, 1-on-1, 7-on-7, being able to record it, right? But not just going out there just for recreation, right? Competition, whatever the case. And then the last thing that I put on here that I think might be the most important is working on yourself and being able to like reevaluate who you're becoming while you're going through this process, right? Because I think a lot of people go through the process and it's kind of like, all right, I'm doing the most, but a lot of people get lost, right? You might lose yourself, you might lose your mind a little bit, so always being able to like come back and do things for you, right? Even though like, you know, we want to train, whatever the case, have time for yourself, be able to say, all right, I'm in this mental space, I'm in this emotional space, how does that connect also to athletics and my student life, to where it's now a full circle of just, you know, being on top of it.
What's interesting is that I think I just heard a new age athlete say that there's a mental health component to training and being an athlete and, you know, managing yourself.
Yes.
I think that the mentality in the past was that that's a bunch of hogwash. You know, we can debate it back and forth, but I think it's interesting that that's what the athlete just spoke. You know, I didn't plug that into him.
And I even spoke to a couple, and they don't tell you to, but your emotions, you hide them, right? Your problems, you hide them. You go home, you take it with you, you come to school, you take it with you, practice, whatever the case, right? But it's great for not even me to recognize it for myself, but my peers, right? I'll go to other athletes and talk to them, be like, yo, how for me? And you won't get the regular, oh, nah, I'm chilling. You'll get it, nah, bro, like X, Y, and Z is going on. Whether it's depression or I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling that way. Sometimes people don't even know how they feel. Household issues. People don't know that all of those things this is life at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So football is a part of my life, as all these other things are. So you can't just take it for granted and say, football is the biggest component, so I only focus on this, especially when mental health is extremely important whatever you're doing.
That was huge, man.
So when you're black and you're using sports, you're using it to get away from
So
remember, you got a lot of coaches that it's like a given. It's messed up, but it's a given to a lot of coaches.
It's not fair.
It's like, what makes us as good as we are.
It's like everybody is going through something, and that's what most of them say.
That's what I said. I was like,
everybody is going through something.
I can't sit here and soak because I'm hurting. I'm like, everybody in the world hurting. So you just, you go through the motions.
You know, and most coaches know, like, we know if you got so much going wrong at home, then concentrate on this and get out.
Right. And as coaches, we misuse and misleverage the fact that we know they're going to find solace in that sport. I won't say misuse it in a vindictive way. I just think that progressive coaching says that you got to look at this from a different perspective than the way we did it back in the 70s and the 80s.
I'd like to give a shout out to the NBA. May change their family structure forever. Interesting that the picks, I would like to give a big shout out to the number 9th pick, which was picked by the New York Knicks. His name is Obi Toppin from Dayton.
Big shout out to the New York Knicks. You know what I'm saying? I'm a hometown guy, rolling with the orange and blue, baby.
So am I. Kidding me?
Interestingly enough, last week we talked about dual sports and, you know, guys specializing in one thing. It's very telling. Let me get the quote exactly up so I don't misquote him. But the guy who wound up being the number 1 draft pick says, I'm still not really into it. I love basketball. Yeah, it is what I
do. Yeah, this is the number 1.
If I were drafted to the NFL, I'd let B-Ball go.
And he was just selected number 1.
Quote, you can spike the ball,
take what
dance.
Take what you can.
No, but I mean,
I'm respect.
Our reason for saying that is because we go to New York, channels their kids in one direction. This guy had more than one opportunity, and he's basically telling you, I like basketball, but football is where I'm at. And
Somebody
I
better
believe
throw him a check
if
now.
we had some of these great basketball players playing more than one sport, then the notoriety would follow. Just as we follow him to every park to watch him score 50, if he was catching 7 touchdowns or throwing 7 touchdowns, we would be there too. And this is what's missing.
The country boys been had the secret. They've always known it. Let's look at a little history. Listen, coaches, it's our fault too. Coach has a stud, and he's a dude. He's going to do everything in his power to keep him off the football field, because the thought process is you're going to get hurt. You're going to get injured.
So you think that the narrative is an athlete, then it don't even matter who's coming for him?
Well, it gives you more opportunities.
Right.
And you might be missing your true calling. You know, I mean, I think we did it all, and I can't stress that enough. We played as much of everything, even if it was just in the backyard with your friends. Seasons change. Oh, this is football. Thanksgiving is coming up. Shout out to all the families that can't get together, but will still be there in spirit. But football automatically, Thanksgiving automatically meant football to us. Christmas time, snow, football. Got a little cooler, baseball. It got hot enough, basketball. And it allowed you to know, yeah, that's my dude. I pick him because he's the fastest when we play football. But I don't pick him in basketball because he can't play. You know what I mean? So you produce it, and we don't have that no more. It's either this or bust. And I think things have to change.
I'm in agreement with that. I think that's why it's great to have this platform to get that message out there. So coaching community, you know, anybody that has the opportunity to jump in the comments and, you know, give us your thoughts on that. What do you feel? Do you think that there's a world where the coaching community can come together and everyone benefit from the opportunity of developing an athlete in as many ways as possible?
Yeah, you could keep recording, but that doesn't happen.
I want to make a big shout out to Eric Jones, Bottom to the Top Hoops. They had a great show last week where they touched on training. And, you know, I just wanted to talk about how basketball coaches say training and football coaches say training, and the conversation can go very different, right? And what I mean by that is I've never seen a basketball team talk about going to lift.
Prior to college.
Okay.
Right? Especially in New York City.
That's a topic for next week's show. Obi Toppin played for E. Jones when he was young. Welcome aboard. Bottom to the Top's Hoops. Family for life.
Today's final word, just to piggyback off of earlier what I said in the show, to all those student athletes who might be going through this second phase of COVID and with the second coming of quarantine or whatever might come with it, just make sure that you stay focused, right? I know that it's hard being in the house, family issues, personal issues, school, football, basketball, whatever the case, right? Even for any athlete, football, basketball, make sure that you're able to manage your time properly, be able to work out, be able to have time for yourself, and that way you make sure that after all of that is done, you're actually prepared for whatever comes after. We might not know what comes in January, February of 2021, right? A lot of guys are banking on next year that they're going to have a season. Who knows if they might have a season, right? I think that it's important to realize that now is a time where you just got to keep working, and you don't have time to be able to stop or slow down and say, all right, I want to take a break, because so much is happening in the world and other things are stopping. So if all of those things around you are stopping and you're stopping, it's no progress being made. So I think that should be the message of this episode right here. And thank you all for watching. Tune into the next episode.
Was more than just a game, we wasn't from the same hood. The ball kept us off the block, had to try to remain good. Started from the bottom, so you know we off the grid. Trying to make it to the top, so we live off the grid. Had dreams of making teams, I was just a kid. Oh, we off the grid? Yeah, we off the grid.